جلسة النقاش الأخيرة بالجزء الأخير يلي أكيد بيتعلق بالحرية بدخلنا إلى فكر الهاكتيفيستس مثل ما قالت دكتور ماي الهاكرز والأكتيفيست. جلسة بعنوان In the Mind of a Hacktivist. بدير جلسة السيدة ليا بارودة عضو مؤسس لمارتش. تفضل.
Good afternoon. Hope you're enjoying the conference so far. When it was decided that I was going to moderate the panel In the Mind of a Hacktivist, I was obviously very excited because as a founding member of March, an NGO that fights for freedom of expression and against censorship, freedom of the internet is a topic that is very dear to our heart. And hacktivism, when it comes to mind, relates to that topic of freedom of the internet. But I think that most of us in this room, me anyway, don't really grasp what it is exactly to be a hacktivist. What does it mean? So today I'm having the privilege to get into the minds of Eric Fulton, Vladan Joler, Nadim Baisi, and Stefan Urbach to understand further the concept of hacktivism and the importance of internet freedom. Eric Fulton is a specialist in network penetration testing and web application assessment. We will understand a bit more what that means. Vladan Joler is the founder and director at Share Foundation. Nadim Baisi is a special advisor for Open Internet Tools Project. And Stefan Urbach is a member of Telecomics. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Closer. Okay. Guys, welcome. So as I said, first of all, when the word hacktivist comes to mind, I first think of groups like Anonymous or WikiLeaks, and the idea of people who hack into or attack government websites or corporations. These people, in my mind, are people who are fascinating, who intrigue me, but at the same time I'm a bit confused about whether it is all positive, what they actually do, what is the purpose behind all of that. So I'm going to start with you, Stefan, actually. I've read recently that in an article that you, as a hacktivist, helped Syrian protesters and Egyptian protesters to circumvent government crackdowns on the internet and to help them advance their protests. So first, I would like to ask you, in your view, what it is exactly? What is hacktivism? And how did you help regarding that?
Well, first, what is a hacktivist? I have no idea. I didn't invent the word, but I always get this word.
Mike.
Oh, sorry. Better? Yes. Great. Okay, so I have no idea what a hacktivist is. I only get called one. I see myself as a normal hacktivist and as a hacker. So I'm doing both. And hacking is not only breaking stuff, but building stuff too. So a hacker normally tries to get into a system, tries to understand it, and with system it could be anything, like a social system, like my phone or a computer or whatever. Tries to understand it, tries to dismantle it and rebuild it that it's working better than before. This is normally what hackers are doing. Of course you can do bad stuff with it too. You can try to get some data which is not intended to be yours, for example, but that's not the point. So hacking first is a highly creative process. Well, activism, as what activists are doing. They do stuff like try to support people in their cause or do demonstration or what activists are doing all the time.
Give us the example of Syria and Egypt. What did you do there?
When Mubarak shut down the internet for 4 or 5 days in Egypt, we were like, oh my God, this is not working, because we had friends on the Tahrir Square and we wanted to communicate with them. So we set up modem landlines that they could call long-distance calls with their old modems and then just have an internet connection. So there was nothing broken. We didn't break into any system because the landlines were struggling, and we just built up some old modem dial-ups all over Europe and faxed the numbers to Egypt with old fax machines. And it worked out. And in Syria, there we were really hacking. We hacked into the Syrian internet backbone and found out how the Syrian people on the internet are surveilled with the technology, the ways of communication of the intelligence and everything. And then we built ways around this surveillance that people inside of Syria could send out pictures, videos, text without getting tracked down. This was what we did there. So there was real kind of hacking in the bad way, but at least we just found things which were already known but never had been public.
So you were basically protecting the internet freedom of the Syrian protesters through secure chatting, for example?
I think it's unethical if people who have an opinion get into jail for that they have an opinion, which is not the opinion of a regime or a government. So basically, yes, we tried to protect people for getting into trouble because they have an opinion. And very often it was not my opinion. I wouldn't share that, and we discussed many things with other people, but at least it was important that they could speak up without getting into trouble.
Nadim Baisi, you are the founder of CryptoCat, right, which is also a secure chat room, right? First, I would like to know why you created this, for what purpose, why was it? And did you have in mind to help hacktivists use this tool to advance whatever cause they believed in?
I think what Stefan very well illustrated when he spoke was that what we're all trying to do here is use the internet as a facilitator for political and social justice and for the advancement of democracy and the enabling of civil society across the world. And in that context, classifying things as hacktivism or calling us hacktivists is a simplificatory term that I think was outdated about 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm really glad that Stefan put it so well that when it comes to the internet, what we're all trying to do is build new mediums to allow people a better opportunity to preserve their privacy online, preserve their anonymity online, and allow them to use this unprecedented communications medium to do something that no one was able to do before. And this provides a backbone for people to be expressive, for people to be self-actualizing, personally, professionally, and also politically. In the same way that you can do your work online, it should be possible for you to organize politically online and have a reasonable discussion about how you want your country to behave online. And so when it comes to your question to me regarding CryptoCat, I didn't create CryptoCat for a political purpose. I created CryptoCat for a simple general purpose. I didn't create CryptoCat for activists. I created CryptoCat simply because I wanted there to exist a easy-to-use, accessible system for chatting online that protected your privacy. And this is something that extends beyond having a political mission or having political goals or wanting to aid a certain group. This is simply an engineering challenge, a technical challenge, and something that generally, if you consider things simply at an abstract level, should exist online. And that's really the ultimate. I mean, if you go to the CryptoCat website, it just says privacy for everyone. And that's really the point of the project. You don't have to be a computer scientist, you don't have to be an encryption specialist. If you know how to use Facebook chat, you know how to use CryptoCat, and you know how to have this system that helps you protect your privacy and the privacy of your conversations online without you having to spend 4 hours learning how to use encryption. And this isn't to say that CryptoCat is necessarily meant to be this piece of software that helps you overthrow a government, but it's certainly a piece of software that's necessary and useful for people who are relying on using things like Facebook and Skype and expecting them to protect their privacy online. Because unfortunately, these popular services are restricted by a lot of politics that disallow them from following the kind of procedures that would let them protect people's data better.
But at the end of the day, the people who are going to need CryptoCat are mainly the people who have a cause that is under threat or that risks. So I don't think someone who wants to chat about what he's going to wear tonight is mainly going to make the effort in one sense.
I personally have used CryptoCat to chat about very mundane things because personally I use it to protect my right for privacy. I want, not because I have something to hide. And whether I have something to hide or not is not the business of anyone either way. But I use it because I have the expectation of privacy that as a human being I expect, living in this time, the world around me should respect and promote. That being said, the easy question out of the way, yes, the people who want to believe most in the existence of a easy-to-use private alternative are in fact the people who are in danger. They are in fact the activists and the people who want to have these solutions and want them to be easily accessible. And it's very hard to talk to those people and convince them that there is really no full solution to the problems that they are facing. I mean, even the people who are using encrypted voice communication in some countries were intercepted simply because the government would set up parabolic microphones on the building facing the building that they were using and intercept their communications without even needing to, infiltrate their computers. They were using a physical interception layer that was completely different. And so this stuff happens, and there are so many different ways that you can be intercepted, but those people are desperate and they want to believe that the solution is there and that it's simple, but it's not.
Okay. Vladen, Eric, I'll get back to you. What we've heard so far is mainly that internet privacy is used to protect internet freedom. The concept of internet freedom, first of all, how much are we under attack? How much is this internet freedom being threatened, first of all? And what can we do? What are other tools to use to protect it? I mean, you as a founder and organizer of the SHARE conference, which is about internet freedom and activism, what are the things that you try to do to protect this freedom that we have on the internet?
Okay, so, I think that we are really not in the good position. And when I say we, I think us as internet citizens or people, internet users. And if we think about internet as some kind of ecosystem, we can see that there is a lot of different animals in this ecosystem. The one kind of animals, it's like governments, another kind, it's a corporate sector, and we can say that one kind of little animals are us, the little poor users, okay? And I think our position is really not so good. I will like to address, from my point of view, some of the main problems. First one is centralization of internet. And internet never supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be like open, decentralized, free.
Let's just, what do you mean by centralization?
I mean
like
that,
simple words.
I mean that like if I ask now how many of us in this room are using Gmail or some other services, probably most of us will raise a hand. So probably most of us are using the same email service. We are using the same search engine called Google. We are using the same social place called Facebook. So what happened is that we deeply centralize the internet into few big companies. Plus, most of our money transactions are also centralized because, like, in most of the cases, the money transactions are going to United States to be.
And this is dangerous. Why?
Because from different reasons. Okay, if something is centralized in one point, first it's really easy to apply any kind of surveillance, any kind of censorship, and it's a great power of control in one place, and basically it's concentrated in one country. So, for example, if I'm sending an email to my wife that is sitting next to me, this poor email is going through like 4 different countries, going to United States and then coming back. And this poor email, it can be read by a lot of people on the way and on the way back. And basically, internet is also about trust, and I'm afraid that there is no more trust anymore, because we are not able to trust anymore to our internet service provider, because by the law, they should give our metadata, or they can do whatever they want with our communication. Then in the second country that this same email is going, they can also do whatever they want with him. In Google, they can do whatever they want with this poor email, and then NSA can take it. So in this little email that I'm sending to my wife, that I say to her that I don't know what we are going to do tonight in bed, probably like 3 different governments and 3 companies know about that. And the problem is that it's not that they know this in this moment, they're also storaging this, and they will know this like forever, and they can use or misuse this information. And that they pay, it's also storage somewhere. So if, I don't know, for example, Putin is buying some new shoes, it's written somewhere in Atlanta if he's using like a Visa card. So this is centralization. It's one of the problems. The another problem is this some kind of total surveillance, we can say. But I think one of the biggest problems is it's also us and our habits, what we are doing, and because such as we like to use like free services and for example, because it's nice and because it's free, but we rarely ask ourselves what is the business model behind this, and most of the time the business model it's like selling of our personal data.
Is Twitter part of this problem that
yes,
you're talking about?
Yes. Okay. Is it? Yes, probably. But Facebook for sure, Google for sure. This is the business model. You know how you have like the biggest company, one of the biggest company in the world that is like for free. You know where this money is coming from? It's coming from selling your personal data to the third person.
Okay, I'll get back to you on why is this really a threat, but I want to go to Eric. Eric, you are different than the other panelists in the sense that you provide security, or you protect corporations.
So what I do for a job is I break into companies. Most of the time it's because our government requires them to have someone like me break in and show them how they could be broken into. Other times it's because the companies actually care about making sure their customers' data is private. And so the reason I believe behind what I do is because I'm making sure companies are keeping individuals' information safe. A great example is hospital. Hospital's main goal, their primary goal, is to do healthcare. It's to help people get better. But as part of that, they need electronic records. They need to keep track of the people going in and out of their hospital, and since that's not their primary goal, a lot of times it's often left to the wayside. They have these records, but they don't know really how to protect them. They have these records, but they don't actually, I don't want to say don't care, but don't put in the adequate effort to secure that. So what I do, I go into the company and I say, hey, listen, you have these healthcare records. You have a person's name, date of birth, social security number, credit card, etc. You need to make sure that's secure. And that's something I can believe in, because if the companies aren't taking care of that information, then all of a sudden it's exposing you, the customer, you as a person, your information is getting leaked to the internet, your information is being stolen. And that's kind of really how I got into the more activism piece, is that a company I worked for, a company that I hacked, was a company I used. And so I went into the job thinking, okay, this is going to be pretty hard. I'm not going to be able to get my information, I'm going to give it my best shot, and I'm not going to break in at all. And it's a massive company. In my mind, I equate a company that makes a lot of money should be able to keep your information secure. Within half an hour, I had logged into their systems, gotten my own credit card number, gotten my own social security number, all of it, and they had terrible security practices. If you ever want to make a hacker angry, make it really easy to steal their own information. From that point on, I kind of had a changed paradigm in personal information and personal security. I realized corporations aren't going to be custodians of your data. To a limited extent, they might try. There are good corporations out there. Google is a good custodian of your data. Facebook wants to make sure because they have a financial interest in it, but a lot of companies don't. And so that's kind of where I got into the more political activism of it requires just as much technology to ensure that you can keep your privacy as it does politics.
You won an award for being an ethical hacker. So what I'm hearing today from, I'm not going to say, quote-unquote hacktivists here is that basically it's the hackers that are protecting us today. Are there because they know the ins and outs on how to infringe on privacy and how to, are there the new breed of hackers that are supposed to be protecting people's privacies because they know how to get into them?
I think that's a good question, but I believe it's a little ill-informed, and I think it's maybe because I'm part of the community myself. A lot of people use the term hacker as a universal pejorative, kind of an easy-to-use term to say, oh, a person that breaks into things. But in reality, we've got hackers all around us, people that build technology, that have clever means of building things. And so when you say ethical hacker versus black hat hacker versus anything else, it's all technology, it's all amoral. How a person uses it is how it becomes something more than that. So as for people breaking into companies, as for people leveraging technology for evil ways, yeah, I think that's going to happen more and more often because, I mean, just as people can sit in front of a business and prevent people from walking in as a method of protest, so can they on the internet do a distributed denial of service attack, preventing people from getting to a website. And so you mentioned and touched on earlier Anonymous and Lulzsec and those type of online activists. I think they get a lot of media attention because it's something new, it's something novel, but breaking into a company on the internet is just the same as smashing a window and going into where all the locked drawers are.
Stefan,
Yeah.
some people and some media say that, since the opposing argument is, since the real world is policed and regulated, why shouldn't the virtual world be? Because under the excuse that, protecting even the virtual users from harm, internet should not be absolutely free. What is your opinion on that issue?
First thing is, they cannot protect me online. Sorry, but the police cannot protect me online. So it will not work. And the police cannot protect you online. They just cannot do this. The only way to protect you is to send you to surveil everything, and this is not protection. And I, from my point of view, say, people, if you're using the computer, please try to get how it works. You must not learn programming, or you must not learn, there's no need that you learn programming, but it would be nice if you understand what your computer is doing, what is happening when you're on the internet. It would really help if people would be more interested in the technology they are using, because you cannot compare it with a car. If a car is not working, you hear that it's not working because it doesn't start anymore. On a computer, you don't see it, you don't hear it, you just really need to know what it is doing in a basic way. So if you're using your telephone, you should know what is happening there and what could other people do with it. And I think that this is, well, in a way lost country at the moment, because too many people are using computers and smartphones, and they get told, we protect you, you don't need to learn this. And this is utterly wrong. People really should get into the technology they are using. They don't need to program. This is not the point, but they should really know what is a browser doing, how is the internet working, and how can someone intercept my data, because this is just a theory thing. You don't need to program for that, but you can learn how it works, and then you get aware of what you are doing on the internet. If I ever see again my dad clicking something on the internet without knowing what he's doing, I will yell at him, for example. And now, after yelling very often at him, he doesn't click he's not clicking anything he finds. So this is the first step. Don't click everything you find on the internet. don't
Good
open
tip.
any.
Don't click anything
Don't
before.
open the attachments of emails you are not expecting and you don't know the sender. So those are two basic things, and the police cannot protect you from that. So no, if a government is saying we protect you by censoring the internet, they are lying.
Nadim, how can we make people relate more to the importance of internet freedom? How can we make everyone, I mean that doesn't speak Java or whatever, understand how to work and the importance of protecting their own freedom and their own internet freedom? How can this be spread?
I think it would be worthwhile to see whether in places like Lebanon, people start using the internet more and more to communicate and also as a medium to basically, I mean, I want to see it as a medium for communication for all kinds of social groups in Lebanon, school students, university students, young professionals, older professionals. And if people start relying on the internet in that sort of way, and if people start realizing that the internet is empowering them socially, perhaps, I mean, not even necessarily politically, but also perhaps politically or economically, if the economic potential of the internet is exploited, that would be amazing if there were some more economic entrepreneurship in Lebanon and technological entrepreneurship in Lebanon. That would tap into the social aspect really well. And so if we can focus on bringing that into action, I think that this is the best way to get people to start relating with the fact that, hey, this is a medium that we want to keep open. This is something that we want to keep free. This is something that we want to be able to exchange thoughts and valued information on without any sort of interference and also without any kind of overreaching surveillance. So I think that your question is excellent either way, whether my answer was satisfactory or not. And I don't think it was, because this is the kind of question that really is very significant to this entire conference, because we were stuck for a large swaths of this conference in comparing things or focusing on European models or American models, and this is understandable because those countries usually precede us in the way that they either enact internet policy or enact new technology. But I think we're being offered the opportunity more and more to be a self-directing nation state in terms of technology. And I think if Lebanon does that, it can really mean something for the entire Mediterranean region. If there is a focus on being a hub for internet policy, being a hub for engaging the local economy in a way that uses the internet as a medium, I think this is something that Lebanon can capitalize on when it comes to being the main actor in the Middle East that can do this stuff. And once this stuff is being done, I think that there will be a civil response to how the internet is being exploited in a positive way, and that civil response will cause people, young professionals who are using the internet, students who are using the internet, older people who are using the internet, all those people. I mean, I know a renowned historian and author who's in his 60s who recently published a book on how he reflects on Facebook and how that is related to his work as a professor and as a historian, and he's a Lebanese author. And I think that reaching across all professional and age groups in that fashion is really important, and that the internet should, in Lebanon, should keep doing that by making sure that the economic, the social, and the political aspects are made the best, are exploited to their fullest.
Vladan, I'm going to go back to the concept of internet freedom, just to how much, some people would say that complete internet freedom is more of some form of anarchy rather than, a proper practice of democracy. What is your view on that, and how can we justify then the abuses of the internet, in the sense, for example, using secure chat rooms to, organize assassination attempts, for example? Or so how can we justify this whole, the counter argument of people by saying, the internet should be absolutely free?
I don't know, maybe in the same way how we are doing this in this other life, like real life. Okay. So we do not, in real life, we are not, I don't know, putting people in jail before they do something. Or we are not stopping them to access something. But if they do something bad, then we should, in some legal process, treat them, you know. There is like, usually it's used like excuse this kind of, you know, child pornography or I don't know, terrorism for censoring all internet, you know, or like for mass surveillance. So in order to find one person, we need to do the mass surveillance of everyone. You know, that's like really ridiculous. No? And so I'm not for some kind of anarchy, even, okay. No, I'm not for anarchy. And what we do and what we should do is to try to make a better laws, okay? And to try...
Internet laws.
Yeah, laws related to internet. And to try to together find some kind of consensus of what this internet should be in the future. And to try to keep it like free, open, and decentralized. And that's the slow process, okay? It's not something that can happen, you know, over the night. But if I can say, for me, you know, to do mass surveillance, this is some kind of, you know, like a thing that should be like in some UN tribunal, you know, like for doing this kind of violation of our rights. Because it's this kind of internet rights or internet freedom, it's not so different than the usual freedom. And what we want this kind of, you know, like basic principles of freedom to be applied on internet.
So basically what we're saying, and what Carol mentioned in her previous panel, is that internet freedom is becoming a basic right, or Eric, should it become a basic right, you know, internet freedom?
Oh, certainly. I think tied in closely with internet freedom and the idea of privacy, the fact that people can openly express themselves in a public setting without having to worry about any type of recourse is necessary. It's funny, I've been watching on the Twitter, a lot of people have been saying, is hacking a profession? It is, both legally and illegally. And it's something interesting to note that my profession is solely done on the internet. The internet isn't a nation state, it isn't a country, it transcends borders. And because of that, it connects everyone individually at all parts of the world. And so to deny someone the ability to connect with ideas, to connect with thoughts in other countries, in other states, in other areas, is to deny them a basic human right. I would say, to go back on the idea of privacy, a lot of people argue that they are already private, which I think is grossly inadequate, or a wrong thought. Earlier it was asked, why do you encrypt your communication if you're talking about benign things? I would argue that privacy and thought you also have to account for time with that. Meaning that right now, I have nothing to hide. Right now, I don't have to hide religion, I don't have to hide a number of things because of where I'm at. But later in time, that might change. I mean, the best quote of that is, the Germans had nothing to hide until they had to hide their neighbors. And so I would argue that people need to be able to express thought, to communicate, to be able to think and share those thoughts without any potential for recourse.
I would like to start with Stefan, and maybe each and every one of you, because I think this is something I would like to know, so probably people also would like to know it, is if it's possible that each and every one of you could give like important tips on how to, things that people might not know that are things that are basic, on how to protect themselves online, or how to at least, you know, think of these things, like, I don't know what it could be, and Stefan?
Well, yeah, it's not that easy. First thing I already said, don't click everything you find on the internet. I mean it, don't click everything you find on the internet. Don't give everyone your credit card data, for example. That's very important. Try as often as possible to use cryptography for emails, for example. There are open source tools which are tested and working, and for example, pretty good privacy. If you are using, for example, Google Talk, try not to use it anymore, but go to other services.
What is that? Sorry.
It's instant messaging, Google Talk, for example.
Okay.
There are free and open source versions of chat programs like, for example, Java, which is not centralized like the known programs, and you can encrypt your communication or use, for example, CryptoCat, or, well, just don't rely on one service. That's very important. Just do not rely on one single service provided by one company. If they want to shut down, then they do it, and then you are lost. It's the same when your email provider just shuts down, then your email is lost. Then you don't have it anymore, and there's, yeah, it's very hard. Try to get your own domain and make your own email address with your own domain, for example. This just is, if they shut down, then you have still your name left.
Nadim?
I wanted to just add something to what you asked Vladan, which was regarding how the internet can be used for terrorists if we give them encryption. Last I saw, Volkswagen and Hyundai weren't being sued because their cars were being used as car bombs. So I think, following the same logic, I don't think Facebook is going to face any repercussions if it was used to organize a terrorist attack, because I don't think people are generally blaming existing technologies for the things that they facilitate. I think generally it's a fear of new technology that we're dealing with here. Aside from that, honestly, I think it's going to be pretty useless for me to give people security advice on a panel, because none of them are going to remember it or follow it. But I think if I have a couple of minutes left before I pass on the mic, I would like to use that time more wisely and state that I think there's a lot to be done with promoting internet freedom in Lebanon and in the surrounding region. And that starts by engaging multiple types of people who live here from different economic and social classes. We only have one social and economic class in this room, and that sucks. We should have other kinds of economic and social classes, and we should engage them in political and social and economic ways on how to use the internet to their benefit.
To increase our target.
I think every single young adult in Lebanon should be targeted with this kind of initiative. And by doing this, this is your best bet at protecting internet freedom, by promoting the internet as a usable medium, because right now, when everyone in Lebanon thinks that the internet is limited to Facebook, you're not really doing much to promote entrepreneurship. And I taught myself English and programming using my 56K dial-up connection when I lived in South Beirut from when I was 10 until I was 16. And I want this to be the story of many people here. I want everyone here to be afforded this opportunity if they live in an area with a poor dial-up connection and little access to resources to learn things that can benefit them later in life. And I think when you focus on this, the initiative to protect internet freedom comes naturally after in those people.
Eric, any last words?
It's hard to follow both of those very good suggestions. I would say the biggest thing that I could promote would be education, which you're all doing by being here today. Increasing your knowledge of the topic, increasing your knowledge of potential attacks that could happen against you, so that you can then understand what you need to do to ensure that you're keeping yourself private, that you're being educated, that you are being able to interact with the world, and to prevent that ever being able to limit you. And aside from education, I would also say being able to be a part of something. It's not enough just to think about something and to talk about it, but you need to take action.
True. Thank you. Vladan?
Okay. So what we should do? We should, I think we should read more books. We should not try to understand the world through 140 characters
Only.
only. We should try to read more books because in the end our brain will be able just to consume 140 something characters. And it's okay to read books because sometimes you need like more text to understand something. Another things I think we should use more free software and free hardware, but free not in the free as a free beer, but free as a freedom. So why? Because this is some kind of, in my head, it's some kind of, you know, like all of this technology, it's some kind of extension of your senses. It's not just in my head, it's also in the head of Marshall McLuhan. But, so if all of these things coming out from us, we should try to understand these, our extensions, you know, in order to protect ourselves. We should not blindly give these extensions to other companies or outsource the way how we see and how we understand the world. What we also do, we should try to decentralize the way how we are consuming and doing things. We should use cryptography.
And cryptograph.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
thank you
forgot
guys.
to
I'm going to
mention
take
Bruce
questions.
I would
I can't see.
Stefan wants to say something.
I want to add something, and you all could start by protecting your computers. During the day, I saw some computers in the network, very open, private documents in the sharing folder and everything in this open local network, and so I could have done anything with it by just clicking and not hacking or anything. It was just browsing. So if you go to a conference, just turn off the file sharing on your computer. It would be very nice.
Thank you. Any questions, please? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just to know that the year 2014 was going to be...
Sorry, I don't understand any word. There should be
Where's the mic?
anywhere.
We can do this people mic, like he say, and then
Take this one.
FTP.
we heard that the year 2014...
come here.
This is harder than anticipated.
Ah, mic is coming.
There we go. It's good. You're good.
Ah, okay, sorry. It's okay. Okay, so we hear that year 2014 is going to be the year for hacking cloud computers because hackers are more targeting now the cloud because instead of targeting a dedicated server and hack only one website or one company, they are targeting more cloud computers and cloud servers so they can get more data. This is one. And another funny question, what about, you thought about the DDoS attack, denial of service attack. Is there any final solution for denial of service attack? Or if you are protected, for example, against 50 gig per second, you will get 100 gig per second.
Can I say something about the cloud question?
Who would like to answer the question?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's no such thing as a cloud. Cloud is just another word for network of dedicated servers or virtual servers. And this whole cloud computing thing is a marketing pretentious bonanza that is, you know, endangering my mental and physical health in many ways. So that's what just go on. That's all I just wanted to clarify.
I'm not used to you this way.
I see.
Another question?
As for the so the part two of that was about the arms race of hacking, and so I would say that it's just like any other arms race. As the defenses increase, the offense increases. As value of the data increases, the amount of effort put behind it will be increasing. So it's going to be definitely an interesting next 5 to 10 years as humanity and civilization grow into the internet.
Another question to Nadim. As much as I know, you mainly live in Montreal in Canada, and sometimes you might have to go to your southern neighboring country, which is not very keen on people who are working on encrypting any data or any internet services. So how did they react when you went there?
I started going to the United States on a regular basis in 2012. During the summer of 2012, I went there a lot of times due to conferences and meeting with people for work. For the first, I think, 10 times that I went there, which were in quick succession within a couple of months, I was questioned, detained, searched, and so on numerous times. I always got a second security screening label on my plane ticket. I don't know whether I was on a Lebanese passport or whether it was anything else. At the time, I used to be very active politically in terms of internet freedom. I was, I think, more radical than I am now. And I also was just beginning to work on CryptoCat. I don't blame, or I think it's I think that period, which has ended, I am currently not being treated badly at the U.S. border, and I appreciate that. I think the behavior was distasteful but understandable, considering the limitations that governments have on being able to interpret threats. I think improvements can be done, but those were my experiences. I'm currently, for full disclosure actually, the nonprofit organizations that currently support my work on CryptoCat are in fact funded by parts of the US government and with US taxpayer money, which is very interesting regarding when you consider that the dichotomy that exists between multiple different bodies of the US government, where some of them are focused more on domestic issues and thereby think everything is a threat to national security, even a 23-year-old that's obsessed with cats. And the other part of the US government is focused more on foreign policy issues, and they want technologies to serve the Western liberal perspective of internet freedom worldwide, which definitely has realist political benefits at the end.
And I get 2 pat downs too, so don't worry.
Oh, cool.
Okay, we've been asked to stop the questions, I'm sorry. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you guys for being part of this panel.